Okay, so today we're gonna look at Die Hard 2. It is a really good sequel and an excellent film. It is a good continuation for the series. Its reception has been very interesting because it made 240 million at the box office, which is almost 100 million more than the first one. It exceeded all expectations on that level, and it did very well in home media sales and rentals, but its critical reaction was mixed to positive from critics because it got 66% of Rotten Tomatoes, being ranked third in the series, but by the way, it got no consensus. It says no consensus, 66%. Neither does Die Hard with Vengeance, by the way, but Live Free or Die Hard does. So the original, the classic does, and like the newer film does. It's kind of like with Back to the Future, the original has a consensus, but then the sequels don't, and Alien 3 and Resurrection though, but then Prometheus does. What is up with all of these incomplete reviews for the middle films from the 90s and 80s? I know it is something the average person wouldn't notice, but I'm really bored, and I've got nothing of interest to say, just as Roger Ebert. Yeah, hate on me all you want. His death was tragic, not even making a joke about it, but come on, his reviews? One supporting character ruined this film, Fight Club promoted anarchism, Back to the Future Part 3 was a western and that ruined it, but Back to the Future Part 2 being a slapstick comedy made it totally okay. Lethal Weapon 4 is bad because it's just mindless action, but Blade Runner can still be good because it only has good visuals. Spider-Man 1 was bad because it centered too much on Peter Parker and not on Spider-Man, because apparently Peter Parker is like Clark Kent. Apparently, yeah, Kill Bill Part 2 hadn't come out yet, I guess that must have been painful for him to watch. Peter Parker must be less interesting than Spider. Really, it's just like Red Letter Me. Wait, he's got many fans, right? I should really script these things out, but yeah, I should script this out. Can you give me like 4 hours? I'll be back then. No, you're not that patient. Okay, well. Oh, it got a 7.1 on IMDb as the least of the first four, and the lowest audience ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, getting 70%, but old school fans often consider it better than Live Free or Die Hard, and some even considered it the best sequel, better than Die Hard with Vengeance. Some think it's okay, others good, and again others even think it's great. And it overall did strengthen the Die Hard series, as the first one was considered great, and the second film was considered to still be good also. I think it deserved its praise, it's even somewhat underrated, and I think it is the first best of the first four. It does fall short of the first one, but it does come closer to recapture the magic more than some other sequels do. It comes close enough. If I were to say what are some of the best sequels of all time that were better than the original, I'm sticking to first sequels here. By the way, the Curse of the Frequel will not be discussed here. Nope. Building up to that very slowly. Let's go for the really cliche ones. So cliche, so much so, so intensely, so much, you'd never ever hate on Attack of the Clones for the romance being cliche again. The nostalgic critic would no longer hate on the romantic misunderstanding in Shrek, or on the lie revealed in any film. That cliche. X2, Spider-Man 2, Blade 2, The Dark Knight, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, Aliens, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Shrek 2, Toy Story 2, The Godfather 2, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Lethal Weapon 2, Basic Instinct 2, From Dusk Till Dawn 2, Highlander 2, The Quickening, Blues Brothers 2000, and so on. Why? Well, because they expanded on the themes of the first film, developed the characters further, which they kept consistent, the plot is a logical continuation of the first film, and it has the same great cast and even better production values. Oh my god, this is by the way an even more lengthy prologue than in the Confused Matthew review. Nah, that's going too far. But if I think of entertaining sequels that had great production values and interesting plot, and the same great cast, but not much new character development, nor deep themes, and have plot and character inconsistencies with the first one, basically being an entertaining film but not being as thought-provoking nearly as much as the first film, I'd instantly say something like Back to the Future Part 2. As I said in my review of the film, when I still made reviews that get minus ratings, like a -8. Nowadays they're just in the 2-3 positive category. I've improved. Confused Matthew was totally right when it came to points on the film, and he showed it was quite shallow compared to the original. However, I think a sequel should also be judged on its own, and as that I really liked it. Although I realized I rated it too highly, and I demoted it to an 8.5, and I demoted Part 3 to an 8+, so they both get a plus taken away. I admit I was wrong. And as you saw me admitting a mistake, you'll have to die now. Nah, that's too cruel. First you can watch the rest of this teaser review, and then I will kill you at the end. Just as the mob will kill me for once again being in the middle. In the end everybody dies, because that's the point of life. Die. By murder. That's nature. Just look at nature. Animals kill each other all the time. That's in fact the message of natural born killers, and that's why it justifies everything I do. That's why it justifies anarchism, or maybe Natural Born Killers was just a very sick movie, just as I am. So I still enjoy it. It's a wonderful film. I know I'm not going to review it. It's a private pleasure. So overall, when it comes to good sequels that are at least watchable but can range from masterpiece to entertaining, X2 will be on top of the spectrum and Back to the Future Part 2 will be on the bottom. The R2 is somewhere in the middle. And I'm keeping it nice and vague. This also makes sense as the film was based on a different novel from the first film, so it started off as a standalone project that was molded into a sequel. The story was 98 minutes, but the film does have Bruce Willis as star, Stephen A. DeSouza as screenwriter, Michael Kamen as composer, and Joel Silver as producer, all returning. Although John McTiernan was working on The Brilliant Hunt for Red October, so he didn't return as director, and he was very important to the first film. But Industrial Light and Magic did do some CGI meta shots and digital compositing for the film, as the only film in the series, so overall did not have a perfect production team, but it did have most of the great talents behind the first film, therefore was bound to at least be really good, even though it wouldn't live up to the first film without John McTiernan. The film is awesome, but it's not a masterpiece like the first one. On the one hand, its plot isn't really a continuation of the first film, and I'm gonna have to murder my cat for disturbing my review. Or I'm just gonna torture it. You don't like having your hair done, do you? I just had my arm chopped off, so I don't want to gross you out. We'll just continue the rest of the review like this. It's kind of an awkward pose, but I think I'm gonna pass out from blood loss. I will live! They managed to put my arm back on, but I will need continuous treatment for it to regrow properly. As you can see, I'm very, very injured right now. And as we all know, Europe doesn't have very good insurance, especially not the Netherlands. So, if you care about your fellow man in any way, Jesus said, that you should help your fellow man. Even if you don't like my review, send money to reviewer1 at hotmail.com because I really need your help, and if you'll, I need millions, this will be a very expensive operation. If you send millions to reviewer1 at hotmail.com, it will probably buy you a couple of years out of purgatory. So, please help. They finally improved their brand, by the way. This tastes way better. So where was I? Oh yeah, they managed to cure my hand very fast. It's the Catholic Church did a very generous donation. It's the one true church. You can see that in their works. Don't sue. So where was I? Oh yeah, on the one hand, its plot isn't really a continuation of the first film, it is its own story, but Lethal Weapon 2 also had its own story, so that isn't per se bad. Lethal Weapon 2, like the whole series, was very character-driven, and Die Hard was also strongly centered on McClane and his relationship with his wife, so it isn't per se bad because the film can just be a continuation of the characterization of the first film. And also it doesn't contradict anything of the first film. The plot doesn't destroy anything that happened at the end or in the middle or anything of the first film, the same way that some other sequels do, like Back to the Future Part 2, which contradicted that Jennifer was important, for example, to Going to the Future and how Marty's future turned out. Its plot takes some elements from the original, like John's wife being in danger, John not being believed by the police, a hostage takeover where communications are cut off, and the taking off of criminals step by step, and John almost taking the leading terrorist prisoner, but it also does a lot of new things as well, and the plot is really thick. There's an anti-communist dictator being transported who used to have support from the US but became involved with the drug trade and was overthrown and is being transported. This gives him more political motivations, which already sets this apart from the original, and it is clever that he has US followers who hated communism, as those are numerous, and are plotting to free him, and so in another original twist they need to bargain themselves, and it unfolds more like a crime thriller as they place a beacon on the airport to be able to contact planes later, but we don't know this for a long time, and John kills one of the criminals when he saw that they went into a restricted section, as he has become very proactive, but so he first contacts L to figure out who the criminals were, and he discovers that they were terrorists and realizes they're probably up to something, but now he has to convince the police, which is another fresh change from the original. And what is also interesting is that he can in fact now contact the police, he can move around freely, but he now has to work together with them. That totally sets this film apart from the first one as well. I worked with the police too once. Well, does the KGB count as police, or are they more as the... I guess that's a matter of splitting hairs. They at first don't believe him, but it turns out the criminals have a really diabolical plan. They took over an old church under which all the cables connected to the airport go, and they use those to take out the runway lights, which means planes can't land and have to keep circling while having only limited fuel. This makes the stakes way higher than from the first film, as hundreds of people are in danger, but it's also still personal, as Holly is on one of the planes. So they demanded the anti-communist leaders to be set free, so that raises the stakes even more, as he's a dangerous criminal. And also there are some really clever twists, like that they know they will try to access an unused beacon, so they have their guys that are disguised as painters, and this is to distract them and kill some of their men. But McClane saves the day as he shoots all of them and saves one of the technical professionals, which was a smart twist, as he wasn't trusted by the police but is stubborn, so he went after them, and as he knows the criminals well enough to know it would be a trap, it makes sense that he would automatically feel the need to save them. And so they also cut off communications and gave a plane the wrong coordinates, which was a really smart twist, as since they had their signal in the airport, it made sense they could trick them. Also, the general takes out the people on the plane and lands it, which makes sense as he's an experienced fighter, but John crawled through a pipe to surprise him on the runway, which is clever as he did that in the first film, so he has experience, and he surprises the general, nearly takes him hostage, but he's cornered by his troops, but he shoots the piloting chair out of the plane to escape their grenades, which is also a very funny twist, shooting out of a plane while it's on the ground. And Jeremy complained that the grenades were very unlethal because they waited way too long to blow up, and my response to that is Indiana Jones, the raft, hanging on the car, surviving the tank, nuking the fridge. James Rolfe, you know the drill. Yeah. I don't have the suspension of disbelief clip from Edward here, so that's kind of anticlimactic, so knock knock, who's there? Let's move on with the review. Who? It's funny. Also, it is clever they eventually realize their base is close by as they escaped easily, so they go there and contact the police, and they brought in the army, which makes this even more epic, and they go there and shoot at the criminals who chase off, but when John steals one of the guns, he realizes they are blanks, so he contacts the police, which makes for a clever twist. The army unit and their general agree with the anti-communist agenda and supported him at the past, so they just pretended to be there to stop them, but they want to escape with them, and this was a really clever twist, as by using blanks they could actually pretend to be stopping them, and some soldiers can sympathize with an extremist cause, and they were prepared for the army being involved, and it was established they had connections. And Jeremy, who's on my target list now by the way, said since only McClane and one of the designers of the beacons was there, they could have just shot them, but they had already contacted the police, who would have wondered why that happened to them and realized the army was in on the whole plan, so it ain't a plot hole at all. It is a stomach hole you're gonna have. I'm gonna shoot you right in the belly with a shotgun. Shoot you right in the... I love that song. John tries to convince the police of it, but they won't listen, so he just shoots the blanks, showing it was a setup, which is smart as he now has physical proof. And what is also clever is the subplot that the reporter who endangered Holly's kids in the first film is reporting to the news what is happening, causing panic and getting McClane stuck in traffic, as it shows the press always causes chaos. In a smart twist, the press actually also helps McClane because of another reporter landing him a helicopter ride, and he lands on the wing of the plane, which is trying to take off, and while fighting gets the gasoline to come out, which he lights on fire, killing all of them, which is a really clever twist, as it is often done on cars and films, but now it's done on the plane. So, and they can now use the fire trail because it allows the planes to land, as it gives enough light for them to know where they're heading, which is a clever ironic twist of violence actually saving lives. So the plot was great, not inconsistent with the first film, partially original and thick and without that many plot holes. And by the way, would anyone mind it if I made an obvious 9/11 joke because of this taking place on an airport? I mean, the nostalgia critic and CinemaSins did it. Well, they made jokes about how it was inappropriate and about how you weren't allowed to do it, so no? Well, darn.